Hello, YouTube. It is me, East. I've recently completed 62 Fear, all aspects, in Hades 2. I'm very excited about this, and now that I have finally won at 62 with all of these aspects, I thought it would be the hip and trendy thing to do to give my thoughts on each of the weapon aspects and rank them in a tier list. So I hope you're all really excited. I'm gonna go, I believe this tier list, these images are in alphabetical order. So I will just start with A, and then I believe the Mel aspect weapons are the last ones. And we're gonna give them all a ranking. And then once that's done, I'll share the tier list posted in the speed card. And that will be my contribution to the aspect discourse. Again, I just want to stress, all of this is based on my experience, and because I won, you should take everything that I say to be the cold, hard facts about each of the weapon aspects. Let's get started. So, first off, we have A. A for Anubis. Ooh, interesting. So, the aspect of Anubis is the hidden aspect of the Witch's Staff, Discura. The really nice thing about the Anubis aspect is that it sort of turns the dynamic of the staff sort of on its head. I find the Witch's Staff, with its like sort of dash attack special combo, is really good at hitting single target enemies for like concentrated damage. A lot of the other aspects can also do this, or have some other form of like way to apply area of effect damage. But Anubis, at its core, is an AoE damage aspect. Its attack creates this expansive field that deals a bunch of damage. Special pulls people into it, and the Omega attack can keep people in place. It actually has a property to it where it can even keep boss enemies inside of the field of damage, which is really cool. To say nothing, of course, of the lone shades that you can run into that create more damage. Anubis, of all the staffs, I think has the most staves. Of all the staves, Anubis has the most out-of-the-box damage. It has the most right-away area of effect damage, and it does so well with on-hit effects, especially compared to all the other aspects, which I think do a little bit better with either cast boons or percentage-based effects. This one really brings out the strength of things like Hestia's Scorch, Zeus's Blitz. Even Hera's Hitch is like quite interesting and quite powerful here. So for all those reasons, and the insane damage output that it can have, I'm ranking Anubis in the S tier to get us started. Moving right along, we have the aspect of Artemis. Fitting for someone such as Artemis, this is all about critical hit chance. Basically, you charge up your Omega attack, and if you take any damage while you're charging that Omega attack, you parry it, and your riposte immediately deals insane critical hit chance on your next, I believe it's, 8 or 10 strikes or something like that. I don't even know. Basically, your next few attacks of your combo deal a lot of damage. Artemis, like all of the blade aspects, I think all 4 of the blade aspects is decently flexible with things that you can do. Surprisingly very strong with Hephaestus's blasts, Zeus's blitz. Scorch on-hit effects are actually quite strong in the blades because they have a lot of quick, small attacks, and can also, in the case of like the Hephaestus special or the Zeus special, hit from range. Of course, because this is a blade, it also gets access to trick knives as a potential hammer, which is incredibly powerful. It's got the ability to just completely turn a run on its own, and at high fear, that's the kind of things that you need. The extra bit of safety of being able to riposte big attacks, like I cleared my Artemis 62 on the surface, and being able to parry hits from Prometheus or Typhon is super useful. And for all those reasons, I think Artemis is an S tier aspect. Moving right along, we've got the C's aspect of Charon. Charon is a super interesting aspect. I think it's the first of the 3 here that truly leans into its identity as a mana-consuming aspect. I would say Charon was possibly the most buffed aspect in patch 1.0 with the changes to how Apollo's Lucid Gain works. Lucid Gain giving you mana regardless of where you're standing when your cast expires means that Charon has an absolutely reliable gain to fuel its engine of drop cast, pop cast, deal big damage. For that reason, I think Charon is one of the top tier aspects for sure. It's got great range, great burst damage. All you really need is a reliable gain and maybe a special or cast boon to really get you going. There are lots of things that interact with Charon because it uses both an Omega Special and an Omega Cast. So things that make your special better, your Omega Special, your cast, your Omega Cast, all these things can increment the value that you get from this Charon combo. For all those reasons, I think Charon is a no doubt about it S tier weapon aspect. Have my little drink. Moving right along, we've got Circe. Circe was the first aspect that I've ever done a 62 with. It's a very, very interesting weapon aspect. Basically, it doubles your casts and creates a tether between you and your animal companion. The second cast spawns where your animal companion is. I think Circe is one of the most interesting weapon aspects for me just because it really forces you to think about the way that you, where the position of your animal familiar is while you're in the game. And that makes it, like, really cerebral and, like, really interesting to think about. Oftentimes people will go for Rocky just to stay on top of big boss enemies and get double casts that way. It's super powerful with everything that makes casts good. Storm Ring, Arctic Gale, Smolder Ring. Almost every ring except for Sword Ring is very, very powerful with Circe. Sword Ring, not so much because it, if the two Sword Rings overlap, you don't get double blades. It's just the way that Ares blades work. And on top of that, you also just have the staff on top of that, which is, sorry, I said on top of that twice, which has access to amazing attack hammers, amazing special hammers, and like a really good solid fundamental moveset with range, damage, already sort of built in. For all those reasons, I think Circe, like Anubis, as a staff aspect, is an easy S tier. I mean, one of my favorites for sure. And drink. Next up, we have the aspect of Eos. The very important thing about the aspect of Eos is that it summons a Daybreaker when you channel your Omega attack, and you have to name your Daybreaker. My Daybreaker is named Dave, and Dave definitely helped me out a lot on my 62 clear with the aspect of Eos. Essentially, the Daybreaker flies around and copies your specials. It's an incredible source of damage. If you take Freeze on it, it's a really good source of control. If you take Hitch on it, or like Apollo's attack range increases, it's like really powerful in that sense. It's a great for thermal dynamics. So basically, a lot of combos interact really well with attack and special. This is similar to a lot of things on the Umbral Flames. They're like pretty good with everything that intersects between attacks and specials and takes advantage of Omega Omega attacking and specialing, because those are the things that you kind of have to do with all the flames. Because Eos can create damage, super high forms of damage in two different places at once, it's so powerful for room clear, and even against bosses where there's usually only one target, Eos can also be incredibly powerful because it just deals really low committal damage. Once the Daybreaker is up, it's going to follow bosses around and do damage for you. You don't really have to like get up close to make that happen. And for that reason, I think Eos, super strong aspect, S tier for sure. All right. Aspect of Hell. Aspect of Hell to me is one of the most unique weapon aspects in the entire game. It sort of harkens back to the Adamant Rail from Hades 1. It's a rapid fire, low initial damage weapon aspect that relies on getting lots of hits in on the enemy. It truly is one of the best weapon aspects in the entire game for utilizing on-hit effects like Poseidon's Waves, Hestia's Scorch, or even Zeus's Blitz. And then the special, the projectile that, instead of moving you, is a projectile that flies out and tags almost every enemy in the vicinity, is a great mathematical representation of just how strong Hitch can be. And Blitz, again, there as well. Things like Static Shock. For that reason, Hell is a really interesting exploration into optimizing a relatively narrow build path with incredibly high potential. So you're constantly looking for specific things when you're building Hell, but the payoff you get for doing that is incredibly powerful. The Valkyrie form is obviously insane. There's some really powerful hammers like Valyrian Glance and Garmer Gaze, and also the special stuff can really synergize very well. Colossus Driver in particular is a really interesting hammer on Hell. And for all those reasons, I think Hell is an easy S tier. Very unique, very fun to play weapon aspect. Next up is Medea. There really isn't like too much to say about Medea. The numbers on this thing, 90% increased damage on attacks and specials is a little absurd. There is, of course, the quote-unquote downside of having to play Medea as like an only close range aspect, but as people have gotten better at playing the other Skull aspects, with the exception of Hell, they've just started to also play them as like really close range aspects, just due to the nature of how the attack and special interact. So all it takes is a bit of getting used to on Medea. I mean, my third try on this weapon aspect, I was able to clear 62 Fear Underworld. Any form of like control or consistent armor, things like Demeter's Snow Queen and Freeze, Hephaestus's armor boons, especially Trusty Shield. Combine that with Zeus, Ares, Aphrodite, even Apollo, Hera, all different kinds of sources of damage. You've got a really surprisingly consistent weapon aspect. I used to believe people when they told me that Medea was like really hard to learn, and maybe I'll experience that more as I play the aspect a little bit more to achieve even higher heights or faster speeds. But to me, if there's if there was a tier that existed above S tier on this list, I think Medea would definitely be a candidate to go in it. But it's a absolute slam dunk into the S tier there as well. Next up, oh, quick drink. Next up, we have the aspect of Momus. Momus is, to me, one of the coolest and most interestingly designed weapon aspects because on the surface, looking at the numbers, you would think it was like similar to Medea, like on a level above everything else. Every Omega thing that you do, Omega attack, Omega special, and Omega cast, happens 3 times. It's a tripling of your power. That's like 200% damage, and I just raved about Medea being 90%. But Momus, I think even more than the aspect of Nergal and the slower axe aspects, Momus embodies the spirit of like cumbersome, low speed, high damage. If you can hit the enemy with all of your Momus turrets, it deals absurd damage. And there's great synergy with the Night Arcana because you're constantly using Omegas. The Eternity Arcana can be very interesting as well. Obviously, Geyser Spout from Poseidon, Winter's Circle from Hermes, Weed Killer from Demeter, things like Fine Line. All of these can like really up the damage of Momus. However, you need a really strong gain and definitely some channel speed increases to really make the most of Momus as a magic aspect. But it also is like a prime candidate to just like be played aspectless and to embrace sort of the incredible moveset that the staff has just at base. So there's like a weird 2 paths diverge in a wood sort of thing that you can do with Momus, and both of them are really interesting. So I find compared to the other 3 staff aspects, which tend to kind of be like relative cakewalks to win with, Momus requires a lot of thinking and a lot of creativity, and also like really chasing and pursuing a magic build if you want to build into the aspect. And for that reason, it's an S tier aspect for me. I always underestimate in these videos how much yapping it is. Like, we gotta be at like... We're almost halfway through, though. So let's keep going. This is the aspect of Moros. Moros is such a cool weapon aspect. It does some really, really cool things. the ghosts that get the little ghost buddies that get summoned by it explode when hit by your specials. This can be both done with and without Omega attacking or Omega specialing, but the basic combo is Omega special, your Omega attacks get blown up by your Omega special, so do your attacks. Momus is really good with base power increases, so even weapon aspects like Aphrodite that can add Secret Crush to things. Hestia's Slow Cooker. Base power increases are really, really interesting and quite strong. Momus has some very explosive combo potential, especially with like the Hero Zeus combo. That's like a classic. Born Gain or Lucid Gain or any like high quality gain boon. Hestia's Cardio Gain is low-key very good as well. There's a lot of explosive damage from this Moros combo you can put together. It's a really cool aspect for that reason. Easy S tier, absolutely. The aspect of Nergal. Nergal was the first non-staff aspect I got a 62 clear with. One of the only ones that I did before J-Palm was released in 1.0. One of my only early access axe clears. Nergal is incredibly fun to play. I think it's more than any other aspect almost. Well, there's a few that are up there as well, but to me, Nergal is really all about making the most of your Daedalus hammers, optimizing your keepsakes and artificer charges to get the most Daedalus hammer value that you possibly can. Understanding the positioning of enemies in rooms, grouping them up, making the most of understanding your aspects window, like when you have Berserk up versus when you don't, is hugely consequential for how this aspect works. At 62, we've seen people try to really push no spin Nergal, or like minimum spin Nergal to some points of success, and then it absolutely pops off with the addition of Psychic Whirlwind, which completely makes the hammer so strong. Nergal has such incredible defense and offense potential. It has to be an S tier aspect for me. Absolutely. A blast to play Nergal as well. Very, very fun. Speaking of a blast to play, I think we get to our first coat of the... Yeah, this is the first coat, right? Yeah. The first coat of the group here is the aspect of Nyx. This is actually the last aspect that I got a 62 clear with, so it's the one that is the most fresh in my mind. And I gotta say, what a fun aspect mechanic. The Omega Dash, charging up, hitting something, turning into Night Spawn charges that basically like give you your own version of Shimmering Rockets, the hammer, that can combine with Shimmering Rockets, the hammer. There's a lot of really powerful things you can do with on-hit effects with Nyx's rockets. Hestia, very strong, obviously. Zeus, very strong. Hitch from Hera, very strong. And then, other than that, it's like a coat. It's very fast. It can move in and out of combat very quickly, so it's really, really interesting to play with Hephaestus' blasts. I believe that the run that I did used Sun Worshipper and Night Bloom, the Hex, and that's because you're always going to be spending your magic, if you have it available, when you go for Nyx's Night Spawn channeling. So that is really, really cool. It's similar to me in some ways to Charon, maybe a little bit less so, but it has like one thing that it needs magic to do, and as long as you have magic to do it, you're gonna have a great time. And for all those reasons, I think Nyx, easy S tier. Very, very fun weapon. All right, aspect of Pan. Oh, sorry, I moved my mic. Aspect of Pan. Drink. Pan, to me, bears a bunch of similarities to the aspect of Nergal. It's really, really strong with the right hammers. Pan is the best, in my opinion anyways, the best aspect of the blades at taking advantage of the Trick Knives hammer, and for my money, Trick Knives is one of, if the not strongest hammers in the game. It turns your dash attack into an absolute nuke that sends out 3 specials, and of course with Pan, the specials will hone in on everyone in your cast. So that makes it a focused nuke on boss fights. Very, very useful for single target damage. Players have even started to come around to using Pan's Omega Special. Long thought to be not really worth using. But people have started to use that even on 62 runs to take advantage of Poseidon's Waves, Hestia's Scorch, but honestly, really anything can go with Special on the Pan Blades, especially with Trick Knives. These focused Blades coming in and hitting things can be strong, even if they're like, I think my 62 clear I used Ares Vicious Flourish, which was like probably one of the worst things you can have on a special on the Blades, to be honest. But all of these things work. They can all be effective doing those things that way. And I think just because there's that real strong potential for power, and then on the side you have everything that the Blades come with. So lots of fast attacks that can take advantage of on-hit effects, things like Scorch, Blitz, Hitch, etc. Really good weapon in general for Hephaestus blasts, and a very like mobile, high dash uptime on Blades. Like, you don't, is maybe using the Omega Special with Pan, you'd be a little slowed down. But the one thing I like about the Blades compared to all the other weapons in general is that they're very much like, you're constantly able to dash and move and be active. You're not stuck in really long animations for that long. And for that reason, Pan's got to be an S tier. And next up is the Mom Skull. The aspect of Persephone. Persephone, such a cool weapon aspect. One of the few weapon aspects, I believe the only other one is the aspect of Artemis, that really plays with the concept of invulnerability for Melinoe. That's the Omega Special is Sprouted, which means you cannot take damage, and you are invulnerable for a very long period of time, and can kind of drive the car around and deal big damage. This is charged up by Olympian damage, so things like Hephaestus Blasts, Hestia Scorch, Zeus Blitz, Poseidon Waves, the effects of casts like Storm Ring, stuff like that. And on top of that, Persephone can give you increased levels increased palm levels on your boons as well. And combining that with the boon levels that you already get from the Jeweled Palm, and divinity hitting on anything on Persephone with this in mind turns into an absolute incredible boon. I'm talking like 300% more damage on your special from Aphrodite, or an Hephaestus Blast that immediately is on a 2-second cooldown. Like, all these things are so powerful, and they kind of work in conjunction to create a very, in my opinion anyways, like consistent and safe boss fight rotation, where you just need a gain, just need some sort of sustainable gain, lots of Olympian damage, and you can basically cycle through. I deal a ton of Olympian damage, I Omega Special, and I'm immune to whatever the boss is doing. So I find, in particular, Kronos to be almost completely invalidated by the aspect of Persephone. Like, if all you could do to win, like, a max sphere attempt was, like, pick, I don't know, 5 or 6 boons, a hammer, and you immediately get dropped into the 67 Kronos fight, I think Persephone would be the best aspect at winning that fight, because of that rotation. Maybe that's a hot take, I don't know, but it definitely, to me, all these benefits put Persephone in the S tier. It's worth pointing out that, like, I did my 62 using Olympian damage in the Omega Special, but Thanatos did a 67 clear, and I think he was completely primed out of mana by the end of it. You don't even need to use Sprouted. That's just how powerful the different things that Persephone can do for you are. Next up, we have one of my favorites, the aspect of Selene. Selene is the only weapon aspect that begins the run with a Skyfall. This is also the only time you can ever get the God-sent Hex of Ares. The Lance of Ares, which is part of the Skyfall effect. This was really interesting to me that it's called the Lance of Ares, even though everything that Ares has been doing in both games, and everything he's been pictured with, are swords. So that's a little weird that it's the Lance of Ares. Also, it seems like it should have been falling blades, but instead it's things that inflict wounds, and they don't look like blades. I don't know. I'm not a game designer. I'm not the design team. The point is this. Selene is a very cool aspect, which, similarly to Momus, sort of asks you the question of whether or not you just want to use Skyfall to create additional boss damage on top of the already fantastic base moveset that the Coat has for it. The dash attack on Coat is fantastic. The rockets, especially if you hit the Shimmering Rocket Hammer, are absolutely nuts. They're super strong. Exhaust Riser, especially now that it works properly with Poseidon's Wave Strike, is amazing. Very good with Scorch as well. This is a premier thermal dynamics weapon aspect as well. I mean, all the Coats are pretty good with thermodynamics, the duo between Zeus and Hestia, but this is another one that can do it that way. I believe I did double Hephaestus Blasts on mine on attack and special. It's another way you can kind of do that with J-Palm. Lots of opportunity for flexibility, or you can lean heavy into the Omega effect that Shine gives you from Skyfall, and basically have the Skyfall permanently off cooldown whenever you need it. And then, like, you know, Hera's rockets, Fine Line, lots of things to increase your Omega stuff. I find it best to be kind of cycled between Omega Special and Omega Cast. Other people like to use the Punch. More power to you. Easy S tier for Selene. It's, again, similar to Momus. Very cool cycling between two different options. Shiva! The aspect of Shiva! Shiva mixes up the Coat moveset, which you'd think would normally be a downside, but it actually causes you to think differently about the weapon. You can't simply crutch on your dash attack, because the dash attack is of lower quality than the dash attack of the rest of the coats. However, the basic attack combo, the 1-2-3 punch, is so powerful and has such high base damage that with like one hammer and an Apollo attack, you actually deal like incredible damage, especially very early on. And you can seamlessly kind of weave it in with your bomb-like special, and you can play Shiva as a manaless aspect, even though it gives you just these destructive charges from using the Omega Special and Omega Attack together. It's actually a completely fresh take on the weapon, even just to play it manaless. The combo feels a little bit different. Again, this is another one that Thanatos has cleared a 67 with, and I believe he also did it manaless. But then on the other side, again, similar to Selene and Momus, there's this entire other world you can lean into with Shiva, where you are using the Omega Special to create these destructive charges, or even just using the Omega Special to deal these big bonks of damage. And again, Hera, Apollo, Aphrodite, Ares, lots of really cool stuff you can do with Omegas there. I played Shiva aspectless, sorry, not aspectless, but like manaless, and just kind of relied on the different cool combos you could do with the attack. And I had a lot of fun. So for that reason, and for all the reasons I talked about before, it's definitely an S tier weapon aspect. Next up, we had the aspect of Supay. So far, Supay and Melinoe Staff are the only aspects that I've beaten both Underworld and Surface 62s with. I gotta say, Supay is one of my favorite aspects because it is a snowball that rolls downhill. So the main challenge of this aspect is figuring out early on in the game how to get the snowball rolling. Like, how do I get through the first, like, half of Erebus or Ephira without my timer completely getting destroyed, right? Like, how do I build into something that can fight Hecate or Polyphemus with relative ease? And once that snowball gets rolling, it's just very, very impressive. So how Supay works is that while you are dashing, you automatically use your attack and your special. And so your ability as a player to optimize your position on this weapon is unmatched. It is an incredibly powerful aspect in terms of the way it inverts the offensive and defensive responsibilities of the player. Generally speaking, all these other weapon aspects, in order to optimally deal damage, or like in order to deal great damage at all, the onus is on you, the player, to like land your combos appropriately. Supay will mostly take care of that for you. Your job is to take care of the defense. And as long as your positioning is good, you can put all your build strength into things that make it harder to hit you and things that deal damage. So Zeus very powerful, Demeter very powerful. Supay is one of my favorite weapons to go for air quality on 62 Fear. I believe I did get a successful couple air quality 62s. I don't know if they were in Supay or not, but that's one of my favorite things to do is go for AQ 62s. Supay is fantastic at that. And it's just such a fun weapon aspect to play. One of the only weapon aspects where I highly recommend playing Tula. I use Tula, the cat, for both of my 62 players. And then people swear by, you know, not needing that and just optimally playing your Omega Special to clear early rooms. There's lots of, like, strategy and hot takes people have had about, like, how to solve Supay's early game. And for that reason, and the challenge that it presents, definitely puts it in S tier for me. Next up, we're almost at the Mel aspects. We've only got a few more to go here. we have the aspect of Thanatos. Thanatos. Thanatos is a really interesting exercise in speed, because even though the weapon aspect reads that you attack so % faster, and you really do attack faster than most axes, Thanatos is still, relatively speaking, one of the slower attacking aspects in the game, so you can kind of get it messed up in your brain if you're trying to like go in and wail on enemies really fast. It still encourages this like really slick game of dash attacking and following up and positioning and using your special properly that I love about the Melinoe Axe, but it does it in a different way where you're building more for power and damage versus building more for speed, positioning, and you're leaning less into the dash attack for Thanatos and more into the regular attack. Thanatos loves both Psychic Whirlwind because of the crit chance that you get from lethality, and Rapid Hack. Rapid Hack, very, very powerful on Thanatos. And it's one of the few axes in which you can consistently take on-hit damage effects like Blitz, or, you know, you can, like, Mel Axe can use Blitz attack, but it's usually best when paired with Dash and Heave. Whereas Than, I think right off the bat, you can go for Blitz attack. And you're going to be feeling pretty good about that. And it's not the worst thing in the world to go for, like, a Hestia attack on this thing, where normally with the chunkier, slower axe attacks like Nergal or Mel Axe, you want things like Hitch, or even like Aphrodite's high percentage increase or Apollo's range increase. And all those things are still strong on Than. Than just doesn't have the immediate power that those two have. So that's kind of like an interesting split on that dynamic. And then Than, more than I think any other axe, you're using both your regular attack and your Omega moves. So like Omega cast builds can be quite strong on Than. Omega attack, obviously very, very powerful with the crit chance. And I wouldn't even be surprised if someone one day submits a 62 that uses the Omega special. You get like a Giga Cleaver or something like that. And if you have a high percentage and you crit, why not, right? S tier for Than. Very, very cool axe. Alright. The last non-Melinoe aspect we have. The aspect of the Morrigan. Morrigan is a very, very fun aspect to play. It's got a built-in combo. You use an Omega move, a special, and an attack, and you deal 777 damage, which early on in the game is a ton. Just using this combo properly is going to get you through pretty much all of like Erebus and Oceanus, or Ephira and Thessaly. And you can add to it on top of that. A lot of the moves that you end up using with the attack on the Morrigan are like big circles. So like Apollo is very, very powerful, but also a lot of like multi-hit stuff is in there. So you can also get away with like on-hit effects like Blitz and Scorch as well. But it also scales up really well with percentage-based things. And then it also scales up really well with speed, because the more you can trigger this combo, the more you'll deal your 777. And that's not affected by anything. It doesn't double, it doesn't crit. It can do some pretty cool stuff that way. There can be a pretty decent amount of flexibility in how you build the Morrigan. And on top of that, it's like a super flashy way to play. I find it to be like a very cool-looking weapon aspect. I love watching the Dark Omen speedrun this weapon aspect. I think it's like really, really fun and really, really interesting. And it was a blast to play, even though I barely kind of got to know how it works. I had a 62 fear clear with it within like 5 or 6 attempts. It's very powerful. Works really well with other things that also work well with blades in general too, like F-Blast, Blitz, that kind of stuff. For that reason, it's in S tier. Alright, now we have the base Melinoe aspects, and we're going to start with the axe. Banger tier list? Thank you, Red, thank you. Mel Axe. So, Mel Axe is, I think, the only weapon aspect that I guess Nergal does give you HP regeneration and, like, healing. But I think, other than that, this is the only weapon aspect that just straight up gives you health. And it gives you a lot of health. It's like 50 HP. It's incredibly high. It's like 40 or 50. I think it's 50. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's 40. I don't know. I think it's 50, and then Phrenos is 40. Whatever. The point is, you get a huge increase to your HP pool when you play Melinoe Axe, and that is a really unique thing because it synergizes really well with the Strength Arcana, and it also just like encourages you to play very aggressive and in the face of things because you have more innate tankiness. Mel Axe also gives you a ton of power, and that power translates to your dash strike, which is very, very useful and very, very powerful. Two big changes happened in 1.0 that made Melinoe Axe in particular very, very, very strong. The first thing was that Seething Marauder got buffed to work on the axe. This is a hammer, Seething Marauder, that does 60 damage every time you hit something. It got buffed to work on the dash attack of the hammer. Sorry, the dash attack of the axe. Previously, it did not work on the axe's dash attack. And that 60 every time you dash attack something is does a separate instance of damage, which is really, really good at clearing Mel Axe's issues with Valve Wards. Valve Wards creates 2 damage shields on every enemy in the game. And before 1.0, Mel Axe could really, really struggle to clear those things. It was like almost a necessity to have Hitch and Static Shock, or like ways with your cast to deal with wards in order for you to have any chance of dealing damage. Now, Seething Marauder can really help take care of that for you, and I think most importantly, with the Jeweled Palm, you get 1 random Hades boon to start every run, and I think more than any other weapon aspect in the entire game, Mel Axe benefits from Gaigaro's dash, which is sort of a cleaving dash that hits in front of you. It deals damage and makes enemies more susceptible. They take a percentage-based more from all of your attacks. This is huge for Mel Axe because you have a ton of innate power, you're dashing all the time, and you need constant ward clear. So all these 3 things make Gaigaro's dash so strong on Mel Axe. Like, honestly, I know, like, it's kind of a bit that I've put everything in S tier, but, you know, prior to 1.0, I might unironically have not put Mel Axe in this tier, but Mel Axe, just as of today, got a 67 fear clear by Raiji. Raiji? I don't know how to say her name. But I think those 2 things really elevate Mel Axe and makes it really, really strong. And for that reason, it's, you know, of course, an S tier aspect. Really unlocks the power of things like Hitch, and Apollo's range increases. Super, super powerful. Alright, Mel Blades. Mel Blades are really cool because I think they start off as the strongest blades because of the backstab damage increase and how it interacts with, like, the way your special works. You're taking advantage of the aspect almost immediately. Like I've mentioned before, blades are a really flexible and, like, speedy weapon. You can get behind things and position yourself really well. Mel Blades are a lot of fun because they encourage you to, like, think about using backstab, which isn't really something that happens that much unless you get, like, Backburner from Apollo, which rarely happens. Mel Blades, for my money, might be one of the most flexible weapons in the entire game. Like, maybe Mel Coat and Mel Staff can, like, compete. Maybe, like, I don't know, Artemis Blades are, like, close. Yeah, I mean, there's probably other contenders that I'm just not thinking of, but for right now, I would say that, like, Mel Blades are truly you can win with anything. Like, you can win with percentage-based stuff and high power. Just look for, like, Wicked Onslaught, and Reaper Knives. It has access to Trick Knives, which obviously turns the weapon into an incredibly powerful burst damage dealer. You can use, Heft Blasts, Scorch, Blitz, Waves, Hitch. It's like anything kind of goes with this weapon. It's super flexible, really, really varied and, like, diverse weapon. So it's kind of hard to have a bad run with Mel Blades, and that makes it an easy S tier for me. In a lot of ways, Mel Coat is similar. Like, I would say the thing that sets the 2 of them apart is that Mel Blades has that kind of extra oomph of damage with the backstab effect to give you more of that kind of stuff, whereas Mel Coat really thrives off of how fast it is. Not just in terms of attacking, obviously that's a given, but, like, at 62 fear, where everything is so resilient and deals so much damage and there's so much enemies, you really cannot understate how important it is to be able to move quickly. One of the things that is absolutely cooking my ass as I'm attempting 67 fear for the first time really this week, is how much slower you are. You, without Swift Runner, and with missing a bunch of other Arcana, which gives you less access to boons, which often the thing you're foregoing in those choices is speed. And I believe my longest time in Sirens is like 5 seconds now. I die within 5 seconds because I'm just not fast enough to get away from stuff. And like being used to that speed and no longer having it makes me appreciate Melinoe Coat even more for how powerful its innate speed increases are. Now, in terms of like ways to play this, you can go pretty much in any direction. I wouldn't recommend using the mana, but like Shimmering Rockets is, you're never going to go wrong. Exhaust Riser, very, very powerful as well. On-hit effects are always going to be really good with Coat, but like if you get a hammer that gives you some sort of power increase, you can absolutely, like Ripper Rockets or something like that, you can totally go percentage-based. Obviously, Shimmering Rockets in Hera or Zeus, you're never going to go wrong with that. That's very powerful as well. Similar to Mel Blades, very flexible weapon. Hephaestus Blasts are so strong on Melcoat because you can literally dart in and out against bosses so effortlessly and avoid their attacks so easily. And I think for that reason, Melcoat, absolute S tier. Melinoe Flames. So Melinoe Flames are a really, really interesting weapon aspect to me because they are directly comparable in a lot of ways to aspect of Moros. They do fundamentally similar rotations. Moros really likes to do Omega Special into Omega Attack. Mel Flames really likes to do Omega Special into Omega Attack. The thing that primarily separates them is there's that immediate upfront crit chance from Mel Flames that, to me, makes it really, really interesting with power increases and percentage-based damage increases, more so than on-hit effects. So things like Ares, I think, is really, really interesting on Mel Flames. Hera, of course, Aphrodite, that kind of stuff, taking advantage of the fact that critical hit chance is a multiplicative damage increase, where all other damage increases other than tend to be either additive to your power or additive to your percent damage. Crit is like uniquely very, very strong. And so it positions Mel Flames really well for specific builds. I think one of the builds that Mel Flames executes incredibly well that we haven't really explored that much because Ares was just recently buffed is the Plasma plus like Inverted Blaze plus like Ares Legendary like combo set. I'm doing a challenge where I'm trying to beat all of these weapon aspects at 62 fear without using the Jeweled Palm, and I'm really excited to try and do Mel Flames with Ares for that reason. I think it opens up a lot of like no mana Huntress, like use your mana right away, Huntress, Inverted Blaze sort of stuff, and I'm really excited to do that. And I think the potential of that build might even outstrip Moros in terms of its damage output and like feasibility at 62. And if I put Moros in S, that means I have to put Mel Flames in S for a similar reason. Melinoe Skull. I think a lot of people are kind of recently, I don't know, when I say recently, I mean like within the last like month and a half or so, have really started to come around on Mel Skull compared to like Medea in terms of like how strong can this be, how fast can this be. I know there was a speedrun set like way back by Webs that used Mel Skull and was like actually quite fast, and I think people are kind of clued into how strong Possessed Array can be with this weapon because of the high base power that it offers. Basically, for every skull you have out, you have additional power on your skull's attack. This is, of course, very strong with Possessed Array. It's a bit more of a bursty damage option and like a fire and forget damage option than Medea, who tends to focus on like attack special, attack special, attack special. You can also play that way with Mel Skull. I think the potential to go and do absolutely crazy stuff with Mel Skull is like so high. It is fundamentally pretty strong to begin with. Another aspect that I think weirdly really benefits from Gaigaro's Dash because it has a lot of innate power. And yeah, I think for all those reasons, It's like very, very strong. It's the first aspect that I did sub 15 minutes on a 62 with. It's got to be one of the highest like potential burst options of all these weapons. So definitely an S tier. Absolutely. Finally, we have the Melinoe Staff. The Melinoe Staff is... Oh, don't screen cap that. The Melinoe Staff is... It might be the most consistent aspect in the entire game. You can do some cool stuff with the Omega Special. I actually don't even think I know what it does for the Omega Special that's different than the power increase. But basically, it increases the power of your special. And if anyone was around for the first patch of the game where that was what Momus did, that was really strong. And no surprise, it's very, very strong, even with the special being completely reworked. On top of the special, like, the staff, Deskira, just really has a lot of range, speed. It doesn't have as much mobility as the blades, but it's, like, not immobile. As long as you don't do the whole attack combo, it's pretty hard to lock you in place. Like, a really simple combo on this is just dash attack special, dash attack special, dash attack special. And if you just kind of do that, you can take advantage of almost any kind of boon. Cast boons are really good on this. Special boons, obviously percentage based, is super strong. Hera, Apollo, Aphrodite are all really good. It's similar to Medea, where you can, like, the first part of that combo, with Medea, you take Zeus on the special, and then it puts the Blitz on it, and then the Medea bomb goes off, and it detonates the, Blitz right away. In Melstaff's case, you can take Blitz on, like, your attack, and then the special will pop the Blitz. It's a really safe, super strong combo. Incredible flexibility, works with almost every weapon almost with almost every god setup in the game. Very strong with Gaigaro's dash. Really, really good with power increases. There's almost nothing in the game that you can't make work with this, just because, like, the base dash attack special combo with, like, a little more power on the special is already so strong that, like, your innate arcana percentage damage increases are often enough to make this thing, like, more than capable of taking care of the early game. And so you can go for, like, later game stuff. Like, you can take a Hef Blast at 8 seconds and work it down to 2. You can take Zeus and just, like, try to jam as many Zeus spoons in as you can. You can go for air quality. You can go for, like, slow cooker stuff. You can go for any kind of, like, Burning Desire, Pyrotechnique stuff with, like, Aphrodite on the special. There's so much in terms of, like, optionality that you have on this aspect, and I think it's an easy way to, like, round out this tier. And that's the last one. I think everything is pretty much in the right tier. I don't think I'm gonna bother with ordering things within the tiers. I'm just gonna say that alphabetical with the Mel aspects at the end. I think that looks pretty much good to me. But let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and if you enjoyed the video, please make sure that you like and subscribe. Show it to all your friends, post it in all your chat rooms, enjoy discussions about it. I think one of the fun things about tier lists is it does get people talking about where they think things belong in the game. This is my opinion. Again, as I've done all 24 of these aspects, I do have a bit of perspective on them, and I hope I've shared some of that perspective, and maybe if you're low on some of the weapons, you've got some reason to like them, or maybe give them a bit more of a try now. But that's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.